and I was named Dwayne Hamilton Cunningham Jr., which really spells Bud. My life up to these 21 years was spent in Greenville, and that's what my name. But then it came the time that I would be signing legal papers, and Bud wasn't good enough. So I had to put my full length. So I tell people, in Greenville, I'm Bud. Outside of Greenville, in any other state, I am Dwayne Cunningham. Okay? My earliest memory is standing along the shore of a lake and seeing two model ducks that apparently wind up, and they were going out of sight. Oh. And I was feeling so bad because I would never see them again.
Yeah.
Now, what the interpretation is. Oh, and there was another person there with me, and I don't know what he said. But,
you don't know how old you were.
But what my memory is, the wood ducks going away, and someone with me, and that has profound implications, or maybe very sensible.
Yeah.
That what you do, you see things, and you wish you could become a part of them.
Oh.
Not realizing that you could.
Oh. Huh. Mm. That's very nice.
Well, what comes to me is before we moved to the Greenville house, we lived in the second floor flat, I guess they called it. And I think we had, there was a hide and go seek. Well, it turns out that we had, in our kitchen, this must have been warm weather, we had this stove, pot-bellied stove, a rather large one. And of course the inside was just covered with soot. Well, you know where I hid?
Oh, no.
In the pot belly.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
That's wonderful. Oh, what a wonderful.
Well, Sunday afternoon meal was roast beef, potatoes, and carrots.
And onions.
The rub and onions too.
I think.
But it was such a standard pattern for her.
Well.
I began to look at Dad in the way that we talked to other people, and the way that he related to other people. And I could begin to see that he was kind and considerate. And I would like to say that I probably learned more from him of the way you relate to people should be than I did from reading textbooks. Dad had one peculiar thing that bothered him, and that was the fact that in his house, whenever he was in control, and there was a Bible in the midst of a stack of books, he always said the Bible should be on top.
So did Muzzy.
A Sunday school class at the church. And one day, Plimpton Growl told my mother, before we were leaving, he said, I just want you to know this, you know, that your dad did so much good, you know.
One of the things that I began to appreciate was the necessity of Jim practicing.
Mm-hmm.
And for some time now, I don't know how long, Jim and I were in charge of washing the dishes after the supper meal. Now, when we can get to it. So when it was, and we would take turns. One night Jim would wash the dishes and I would dry. Next night Jim would be dry and I would wash. Well, I began to appreciate how much he really wanted, felt a strong need to do this practicing. And of course, it was quite frustration. He'd be playing along so nice, and then all of a sudden stop and repeat.
Yeah.
And go along, stop and repeat. But out of consideration for his need to practice, I remember just thinking one night, I'm not going to call him to come in to dry the dishes. I've washed them and I'll dry them too.
Oh, that's good.
Here, remember Jim and I were talking, we used to hear that John was a genius, classified a genius. And of course we joke about it and laugh about it. And what was, I can make a quick tie into the seminary. Our seminary professor in church history, Dr. Edwin Prince Booth, developed a theory which he firmly believed in, that Jesus was a genius in religion. And you see, and then Booth goes on to explain, he said, you don't teach a genius. You present the material to them, and they will teach themselves. And I sort of applied that to his picture photography. He did study on the side. I know he's getting these photography books, and he would undoubtedly read about pictures and so forth. So that's why I've been going through some pictures that I still have that he has taken. Most of them I weed out because they're people we don't know and never seen. But occasionally he's got some sunsets. And I asked him once, I said, John, what do you like to take best? And I was amazed at his answer. He said, buildings.
Oh.
So whenever I see a picture of a building, I realize it's more than just a picture.
Yeah.
There's something of an artistic temperament there. I remember standing by the barrel after he had died, and I had a whole bunch of pictures at the burning barrel, and I was throwing them in, but I checked them all out before I threw them in, and then I would save some and throw them.
Yeah.
Like I said at the funeral, as a teenager, I hardly knew she was around.
Yeah.
She certainly must have been. The only thing that I did change deliberately is when I crawled downstairs to catch them together, they weren't sitting in a chair. I left that out of the funeral.
That's good.
They were on the floor before the fireplace.
Oh.
Artificial fire.
Oh, yeah.
But then they heard me coming, so they just
Caught up. Yeah.
I got up and gave me the money to go get the ice cream
Yeah.
sundaes.
You know, at the very end of her life, and you came to visit. I think that was her, she felt so happy. You know, that was a good thing.
Well, there's nothing like your family.
Yeah. Because you said, you know, something to her like, well, it makes me sort of cry to talk about it, but you said, hi, you're my big sister, something like that. And she says, okie, 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 okie. I was so happy.
Yeah.
The way she could, when she was saying, okie, okie all the time.
Well, those are the people that you've been with all your life. And maybe you didn't.
There are several reasons why I like to be here and consider this my hometown.
I guess the best place to begin is what happened to me when the weather turned good in the summer. And all I had on was a pair of shorts and my bare feet and bare back and bare, well, not entirely. Anyway, I come out on the front porch and look up and down the street to see if I could see any of the gang that I grew up with. We were known as the Franklin Street Gang, and I was their leader. And our house was their clubhouse. And one thing, we invited the kids of the neighborhood on a Saturday morning. And that's when my older brother showed homemade movies. No, not exactly home, they were from Hollywood, black and white. And I had one lady comment, she said, you know, my mother said if it wasn't for those Saturday movies, I don't know what my daughters would be doing. So they all looked, well, the people were nice to me. And I think that's what spells whether a town or a city is going to be nice, are the people. At that time, we seemed to have no trouble on Franklin Street. Maybe because the police officer, the chief of police, lived right across from my house. Of course, the house was set way far back. Yeah. Hutton was his name, probably Officer Hutton. You see now, one of the reasons we formed, I guess, was the war was on, and gas rationing was a very serious thing. And of course, we were getting near the age where we could learn to drive, and we graduated. In those early, we couldn't very well ask our parents to take us here and there. We just had to have our own fun. And it was quite interesting. We'd have parties, we'd have them in Bill's, we'd have at my house, Gloria's, Audrey's, and we would meet together. There wasn't any planned program that we were going to follow because we were a group to have a party. One story, Gloria Bannister tells of the time that when her parents went out someplace, but they were coming back. And when they opened the door, the first floor, it was just pitch dark. We were lying on the floor, and they came in and they very gently stepped over us. But we had such a reputation, it was good.
Yeah.
And the parents trusted us, so there's no reason for Mrs. Bannister to flick on the light and say, "What are you doing?" I don't know what we were doing.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Probably having a seance.
Well, for some reason, that night, we found that if you snuggle down and fall like a ball, and then all of a sudden get up real fast, put your arm back, you could pass out. And I think Mary did pass out.
Oh, yeah.
But she came to. And I vaguely remember Mary saying to her, or Mary Rose saying that it's surprising some of us didn't kill ourselves. It's pretty risky.
Right.
Yes, for some reason or other, I gained a reputation of being a sane, sensible driver. And when we had school dances, school plays, whatever reason, transportation was needed, and the girl said, well, Buddy Cunningham was going to drive. And they would ask. And I would see a mother just relax because she knew, for some reason, I gained a safe driver. But the key factor is the people that you know. And I had my boundaries in Greenville. They would go as far as the gas station on Canal Street,
Canal State, and they would go as far as the cement plant. And they would go as far as the railroad crossing. I didn't figure that out until years later, that a lot of my action, and we would have a gang pickup walk. And we'd go down to the end of Franklin Street, to the very end, and there we would had our baseball. Occasionally we would have a neighborhood kid come in, but some of them were really good players and we didn't like them. Funny, they never came back. But anyway, I hung around the gas station. I hung around. My grandpa. In fact, when I became a teenager, he put me to work. I had my first job, and I think I wrote down, I know I wrote down the wages, but I haven't found the source, but I think it was $13 a week. Wow, that was terrific. Well, the gas station experience brought out my understanding of heaven. For 15 cents, I could have 5 cents for a Pepsi bottle, a Coke, Pepsi Cola, 5 cents for a comic book that had the front cover torn off. The newsstand was, you had to pay 10 cents then for a brand new one. But when the cover was torn off or slipped off easily, it was only 5 cents. And then what I held in my hand, and I still love to this day, was the candy bar. 5 cents. So that I was in heaven with the candy bar, taking a swig of pop, and reading a comic book. I was aware that Grandpa was nice to most everyone. And in the story that I'm writing about the gas station, there was this one man who came in, and he was a salesman, and he had somehow talked Grandpa into letting him use the phone. And so he would sit there ringing up, talking to people, popular customers, and I'm guessing that he bought a tank full of gas, rather than just a few gallons. And I can almost see him in a black derby hat, black coat, leaning on his elbow, talking on the phone, looking out the window. Now other men near me had said, your grandpa shouldn't do that. He doesn't give a hoot about your grandpa. He just wants free time on the phone or something. Like that. But I remembered that I can't ever remember him saying an unkind word against the customer after he'd left or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought at different times that might have been a sales strategy that he has learned over the years. If you're going to sell a product, you better not insult the... In fact, I think I've come to the realization one character flaw I have had, and maybe it's a good thing I voluntarily asked to leave the ministry, and it was granted, as were other men. So,
Might not come back.
you're aware of the solo in Oklahoma of the girl who sang, I can't say no.
Yeah.
I'm just a girl who can't say no.
Yes.
Terrible fix. Well, I suddenly began to realize that it's awfully hard for me to say no to somebody. So I was always saying yes and getting into trouble. But,
Especially when you were a minister and people at the church made demands or asked you things. Is that one of the places where you had to, Yeah.
But you never caused any trouble though, because of.
No, I
No.
think because from Grandpa, I learned how to deal with customers.
Yeah.
And from Dad, you know how to smooth talk his way out. So
Yeah. To be kind to everybody.
the poet that I like best, this one very brief poem, is Robert Burns. And I have to remember the last half of it, but it's something about, oh, if we just had, if the fairies' gift to us would be to see other people as they see us. No, wait a minute.
See ourselves as others see us.
Yeah, if we could but see ourselves and others see us. And that has stayed with me. What it means is, for example, if I'm trying to project to you through your camera the way I really want you to understand me, you can't do it. Or the way I'm coming across to you is probably a shade left or a shade right, but not square on. And that's why one illustration I remember in my clinical training, we had this rather rough-speaking guy. He was a Navy chaplain. And during the 6 weeks training, the leader there was able to help this man see how he came across to other people.
Oh.
And he never realized that he came across so sharp and so mean and so bitter. So
Yeah,
that always reminded me of Robert Burns. You may think you're projecting a very nice, sweet image, very sickly sweet. I can sing it too well, but I'm just a girl who can't say no. I always want to say yes. I'm just a girl who can't say no. What is it?
When a person wants to kiss a girl, I know she ought to give his face a smack.
Yeah.
But as soon as someone kisses me, I somehow always want to kiss him back. Yeah.
I think my strong interest in cowboys grew up on 14 Franklin Street, especially on Saturday afternoon, when we could go to the movies for 10 cents. And they used to have cereals, and then not the cereal that you eat, but movies that would continued on for next week. So I think my influence in being a cowboy came largely from those Saturday afternoon movies.
It was, let me start from the beginning.
Yeah, whenever.
Okay. The theory behind this was that we would all the dancers would be in a circle, but they would be imitating what the Indian does before he got ready to prepare for battle. He'd get in a sweat hut, and our at the beginning of the dance was as we come out of the sweat hut, we're just just hanging in there, trying to get our energy back, and then slowly the drummer starts. And then we get a toe heel. Now this was a step that was used. You're on the warpath, and you stop and then you look over the bushes to see if an enemy is crawling on his line there. Then you imitate, you see the elk has a big step. I'm not sure what finally you spotted your enemy. Or you could be hunting deer and you're spotting, and then you're getting yourself all ready to make a charge. And then and let's see, then you ask for this great spirit to down. And then we'd all get in a tight circle And at the given signal by the chief, they would all turn around and charge into the audience. It just so happened that Mary and I went to Meadville, supposedly to a church meeting. And it turns out that we were a day late, early.
Oh.
So rather than go all the way back, we went to Greenville. So I saw Mother the day before she died.
Oh,
And she
on your birthday.
You know, it could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, I distinctly remember she was working on the stove. She said, "Oh, I heard so much." And to my way, it seemed that she was always complaining.
Oh.
All I can think of, there she is. She probably doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I was thankful for the last opportunity to really see him.
Yeah. Yeah. That is.
So I'm glad we get our calendar dates mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, that is good. That worked out. You do SOS. Oh, really?
Yeah, 3 dots, 3 dashes, and 3 dots.
That's SOS. Okay.
And are you aware that that was the last rescue mission that was taped from the Titanic?
Really?
Up to
Well, I guess that's about it. Have a good day and have a day of play too.
Thank you, Uncle Bud.